see if the stream actually comes up. Yeah, there we are. Get back to the right window here. Where's the share? Oops. Sorry. Trying to see what I'm doing. Nope. I already did that. Let's just double check this right now. Hey, there we go. Sorry about that. Hey, you can see what I'm typing. At a catacon. Catacon, really quickly, is basically RPG fun. Put on by the RPG Academy. Gonna be a fun time. I'm gonna be there running a few games. Sorry, my glasses just slipped. Good. And Kristen's gonna be there playing as well, so hopefully it's gonna be a blast. The people who run it are great. Interact with them all the time on Twitter, and the first real gaming convention that I've been to this point. And if you're wondering why I keep on looking up slightly to my right, that's where the preview pane is on my second monitor for what's being streamed right now. Anyways, doing D&D Character Creation. Yeah. So here we are. Basically, why I'm doing this is I have to turn out a fair number of characters for the two games that I'm running. The first game being kind of a horror suspense theme game. The next one being, oh boy, I want to swap something out here. Hey, there we go. Now it's live like it's supposed to be. You can see me. Huzzah. So the first is being a horror suspense themed game. The other one being on the island of Barbuga. If you're not familiar with Barbuga, think Tortuga. Just changed the name for the universe that I'm running Dungeons & Dragons in. So when creating a character, and especially for a con like this, it's simpler than creating a character normally. Normally, you're going to think a whole lot more about your backstory. You're going to think about what your character is doing, why your character is doing it, and you're coming up with a much larger reasoning for what's happening. However, in this case, it's a situation where they're being played for 3-4 hours, so these characters can be a little bit simpler. Stuff like the second page here, right? Not really going to do much with it. I am going to leave most of it blank. Players can fill it in a little bit as they go along, but it's not going to influence the game nearly as much as it would in a longer campaign. So with that out there, let's jump into some simple character creation. My book's falling apart. The Player's Handbook and the other books are really nice books, but they have a tendency to break a little bit at the binding since you use them a lot. Like, I literally just had the whole first section from like page let's see, page 4 through 104 Fallout. I might contact Wizards of the Coast about it. I mean, it's been going on a year and a half for this book, and it's been used to create a lot of different characters. So let's start with a fairly straightforward build. We are going to go with a human. Human, doesn't matter what class you are, really. Humans have the wonderful benefit of having +1. Yeah, it doesn't tab through like I want it to. +1, +1, +1, +1, +1. So humans get +1 to all traits. And we are going to be running off of the standard array. There's no way that this is going to be readable. But basically, the standard array is a balanced way to put out your stats. You're going to have all the numbers are 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, and 8. So you're going to have something that's a little bit below average to potentially just a little bit below average, maybe -2 if it stays at an 8. You're going to have something that's above average, but not too insanely above average with, in this case, I mean, we're going to have a 16. So let's build a fighter. Fighter, I want him to be good at hitting stuff. 16 makes sense there. Constitution score, 15. There's no real advantage. I'm going to put the 13 plus 1, 14 in Dex. So these two numbers here for Dexterity and Constitution, they're basically either way. Either way it works. The numbers are going to stay the same. Fighter, Intelligence, not a big thing. 9. Let's go 11 for Charisma and 13 for Wisdom. I wouldn't necessarily do these this far ahead of time. A lot of times I like to go through and really think about the class and background, and then fill in these traits, fill it in for the story that you're trying to tell. But in this case, our human fighter would be level 2, maybe level 3. Let's do level 3. I'm gonna have to adjust my stuff, but it makes it interesting. Level 3, in every class, you're going to get your abilities at that point, and really be able to start to focus in your character versus just being like, okay, well, that's nice. I have a bit more skill than the average farmer, except for when it comes to farming, and in which case I'm probably below average. So now that we have those filled in, let's actually hop back to the background. We know that we're going to be a fighter, and pretty often people, if you're going to be a fighter, if you're going to actually be filling out these things at all, I like to hop to the background before doing a lot of the stuff for the class itself. Why? I forgot to fill in a little bit. 30 feet. Proficiency +2. Those proficiency is always +2 to start out with. I think it's the first 5 levels. Well, we can see when we get to fighter. But it levels up the same rate for everybody. In this case, +2 is what makes sense. And it is going to be the case for everybody at this level. Yeah, I can go through and fill in these scores as well. These are the modifiers for the die. Basically, the really easy way to figure these out is subtract 10 and divide by 2 rounding down. So 15 minus 10 is 5. 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. You round down to a plus 2. This is going to be a plus 1, plus 0. And so, like with 9 minus 10 is negative 1. Negative 1 divided by 2 is negative 1/2. So we still round down, it's a negative 1. So this character, it's decentish character. It's what I'm going for in this character, where it's somebody who's new could easily pick up this character and play it. They're a fighter, pretty straightforward, pretty good that way. So let's look at backgrounds. We have a lot of different choices, but for a fighter, this case, I'm thinking probably, no idea what that sheet is. A soldier. Let's just do a soldier. Simple enough. Go over here to background. I cannot spell. Soldier, and just infantry. Now, and we're going to give him neutral good. Like, he's generally a good guy. Generally follows the rules fairly well. I might even leave this empty. Let the players at the table decide what their alignment wants to be. But I'll just toss it in there for now, so you can see kind of how it works. So neutral good. Gonna follow the rules. I'm gonna do stuff for the greater good. He's gonna be more okay with dispensing justice himself when it's a situation that calls for it, both sides needing to go get authority, where the lawful good character who's a fighter, if they don't have the power or the authority to dispense justice themselves, they're going to go capture the person and bring them back to dispense justice. So let's look. Soldier, we get proficiencies. So athletics and intimidation. That's like, no. Come on, buddy. There we are. Athletics and intimidation. Makes sense. What you need, proficiency in gaming set, proficient at dice. Yeah, he's proficient in the game of luck, I realize that. And proficient with land vehicles. Let me scroll a tiny bit here. Equipment. Sorry, this is weird to read from this side, so I'm moving it. I'll probably move back again shortly. So we have insignia of rank, trophy from fallen enemy. Enemy. Set of bone dice. Common clothes. Money pouch. Pouch. And this is tiny. Has 10 gold pieces. So normally with creating a character, and I'm not sure how I'm going to do this yet, you would fill in personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws. I think that I might do that for this, just because it's a situation where it helps players jump into a character that they don't roleplay normally, but I'm also really tempted not to, because it helps players in a situation with a character that they wouldn't jump into normally. They're able to tailor it much more to themselves. So actually I'm going to leave it blank right now. I think leaving it blank gives the players a better chance to make it their own. Initiative bonus is +2. Alright, now let's flip back to Fighter. Alright, good sir. So we'll start with hit dice. Hit dice total is 3. 3 levels, 3 hit dice. And 1d10. So fairly tough. Normally I would roll for hit points, but since I don't have my dice up here with me, I'm just going to go off of the standard, which starts out always 10 plus your Constitution modifier, so we get 12. Then for each level after that, 6 plus your Constitution modifier, so that's another 16. What is that? 12 plus 16 is 28. Really? That's it? That seems low because normally we roll. So we have some more proficiencies. Dice, land vehicles, armor, shields, simple and martial weapons. They're a fighter, they're proficient with everything, basically. I hope this is not too loud, but I don't think I'm peaking too high. I think I'm peaking about where I want to be. Alright, so as we go on from that, we now get to our saving throws. We'll fill in all of these as we go. Strength and Constitution. So with saving throws, there are some saving throws that are better than others, and I'm trying to remember how it goes. Constitution, Dexterity, and Wisdom, I believe, are the most important saving throws. So every class will always have one of those good ones and one poor one. So Strength saving throw doesn't come up all that often. We got a +5 in it. Oh, sweet. +2. Now, Constitution +4. We'll just do it this way. -1. Not that smart. +1 and +0. What you're probably going to notice in these videos as I continue to do them is that I'm going to generally keep the charisma score probably 0 modifier, so 10 or above. It doesn't make a ton of sense for some characters. Like, I'll probably create a barbarian that will have lower charisma. The issue is a lot of the times people like to play a lot of the social aspects, and in a game that is going to have a number of those social aspects, don't want to end up with characters that are nerfed and are only good at combat in a game that doesn't necessarily have a ton of combat. So charisma, keeping it average, that at least allows a person to speak fairly competently. You'll also probably, it's not a you also. Okay, so, but in the case of the barbarian, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go really low. Like, that's going to be the 9. It's going to have the -1 in there, or 8, excuse me. It's going to have the -2 in there. Why? Because they're a barbarian. Like, a half-orc barbarian, probably not going to be the most charismatic guy. It's fine if he just wants to smash stuff, and it gives players a chance to play something that's a little bit more awkward if they want to. However, I'm just not going to assume that all players are going to want to. I have a cat that's meowing outside the door. Alright, so we have the saving throws done, and we get to choose 2 more skills. Perception, I'm going to take... So we have a list of skills. Acrobatics, animal handling, athletics, history, insight, intimidation, perception, and survival. We already have intimidation, we already have athletics. Perception just makes a lot of sense. It's not going to be great. Well, it's going to be a +3, which isn't too bad. But it's one of those things that you kind of want people to have a little bit of. That way they can ask about it, and it can be more interesting for them when they play. I'm also going to go with tough call here. I'm going to go with survival. It makes sense thematically. If this person's background was soldier, infantry, they have to know how to survive to some level. That makes sense. I will go in and fill in all these numbers later. Actually, I'm just going to go fill in the ones that they're proficient with. So athletics, +5. Intimidation, charisma based, +2. Now with this human fighter, and with like a half-orc barbarian that might not be very charismatic, I might let them roll a intimidation check based off of strength. It's one of those things that you can do when you run a game. It doesn't make a ton of sense for a 6'10" Goliath or half-orc creature, sorry, the cat's at the door again, to try and intimidate someone with their words. Why would they do that? They're big, ugly looking mothers and probably have a face that only a mother could love. So might as well just allow them to roll it off of strength. This case, I think I'll leave it as is. If somebody does something like I try and intimidate them, I like brandish my sword and like slowly lick off a little bit of the blood as I tower over the top of them. Yeah, I let them re-roll it with or roll it with strength. Perception, it's a +3. It's only a +2. Intimidation, yeah, it is. And survival, a +3. Passive perception, always 10 plus your wisdom modifier, so 11. Passive perception, let's just talk about this really briefly. It is for when the characters are being snuck up on by somebody, like they might actively be looking for something else or actively not paying attention, so somebody can get a jump on them. Their passive perception is basically saying, even when they're not looking, this person is paying attention at a level of 11. So if these guys, if whoever's sneaking up on them is doing a terrible job of it and is just running through the forest and crashing about, then they find out about them anyways. So let's go back to some more of the equipment. That's the next thing in the class section. So equipment in the class section, when I did it for the background, they just give you a list of equipment that you have. When you do it in the class section, you get to choose. It gives you some options. So like the first choice we have to make is between chainmail or leather armor, longbow, and 20 arrows. This is not going to be a ranged fighter, so we're just going to go with chainmail, 2 words. We can go 2 weapons or a martial weapon and a shield. We're going to go with a longsword and shield. This person's going to be fairly tough to hit. They can have a light crossbow with 20 bolts or 2 hand axes. 2 hand axes. They're not all that concerned about attacking from a distance. They're about getting into the mix and being smacked. Dungeoneers pack or Explorers pack. I'm just going to go with an Explorers pack. Explorers pack, Dungeoneers pack. It basically is a way for you to get a bunch of the basic equipment that you need for adventuring without having to spend the time flipping through and shopping. So at first level as a fighter, you get a fighting style. So there's archery, doesn't make sense where I don't have a ranged guy. Defense, when you're wearing armor, gain +1 bonus to armor class. Probably what I'm going to go with. Dueling, when wielding a melee weapon in one hand and no other weapon, you gain +2 bonus to damage rolls with that weapon. That's kind of cool. Great weapon fighting. When you roll a 1 or 2 on the damage die for that attack, if you're wielding it with 2 hands, you can re-roll that damage. Protection, you can protect other people within 5 feet of you as long as you have a shield. And 2 weapon fighting. You fight with a weapon in both hands, and you add your ability modifier to damage on the second attack. Normally, anybody can fight with a weapon in both hands. Both hands. There we are. However, I'm left-handed, so anything that I do with my left hand, like that first attack I do with my left hand, is going to be the one that I'm most proficient with, so I'm going to get that extra damage. Then with my right hand, it might be a little bit sneakier because they're not expecting that second attack. It still isn't as effective. So that gives us an idea here. We're actually going to do fighter. We'll actually put the fighting style of defense up the top there. We're going to write a note down here, defense, fighting style, +1 bonus to AC when wearing armor. Next thing we get is second wind. Let's see. Once per short, long rest. Use hit die in combat to regain hit points as bonus action. There we go. So second wind, how that works basically is normally you can only use your hit dice, the 1d10, in a short rest. So you get your hit points back then. However, as a fighter, you can use that in the middle of combat. It's actually probably, I'm going to touch a little bit on hit points right now and to kind of explain how I see them and how this kind of works as something that a fighter can do. Hit points are much less about the amount of damage you take, in my opinion, and more about the physical strain and stress on your body. Like, you can go for a while, but once that energy pool is used up, you fall unconscious or are killed or whatever. So there's always the great temptation, like we have a longsword, to be like, I rush up to the goblin and I swing my longsword and try and cut off one of his arms. Well, if you don't kill the goblin outright, it really can potentially hinder a combat to have the goblin lose an arm, especially if it was shooting you with a bow for a little bit, or like you cut off its sword arm. That, well, being really cool, kind of breaks the game. Now, it's one of those things, like if the player's like, I rush up the side of the hill where I can see just down over this cliff that a group of goblins is attacking this wagon caravan of women and children. I rush up off of that, take a flying leap, swing with my sword down on the nearest goblin, and trying to cut off his arm. I would make them roll an acrobatics check to be like, okay, can you actually jump where you're planning to go and be able to swing the sword while you do so? And then I would have them roll their attack normally. If they do really well on both of those rolls, if they succeed on both of those rolls, sure, they can cut off an arm from the guy. Like, he drops a shield if he has one, still has the sword in one hand, drop that goblin's armor class by 2 and call it good. Because, he's a little bit more easy to hit at that point. But when you think about hit points, think about it as stamina more so than the amount of actual physical cuts and damage and everything that's going on to a character. Because, I mean, if you get knocked unconscious and, like, we're describing every single hit as it comes down on you as like cutting into your flesh, you're gonna be a walking scar by the end of a week in an average D&D game. So that just doesn't make sense. Alright, now back on to what the fighter gets. So second level, the fighter gets Action Surge. Once per short or long rest, you can take an additional action. So where this comes in again, and it makes sense in line with Second Wind if you think of it as like a burst of energy, a burst of stamina. Action Surge comes in, and it's basically like you dig down into that same chunk of energy and you pull up and muster extra energy, so you can attack twice, or you can do 2 different actions on a turn. It basically allows them to be a little bit more effective in combat, since they don't necessarily have all the super cool stuff really early on. We also get to choose at 3rd level now our martial archetype. I might just do champion. The champion's pretty simple. It's going to be simpler to play for a lot of them. The other options are Battle Master, which gives you some extra dice to use in certain situations. A little bit more complicated. I'll probably make some more complicated characters at some point in time for this, but let's start out with something simple that's easier to explain. Or an Eldritch Knight, which is, you basically are a magic using fighter. So champion, actually let's change this out to champion. So you get an improved critical hit on a 19 or 20. Critical hits, how I do them, roll the damage die twice, add it together, then add any bonuses for damage. So 19 or 20, I mean, you've improved your chances from 5% to 10% critical hitting on a given attack. Not bad at all. So those are going to be the class features that we get. Let me double check that I haven't missed anything. At the beginning of each class, they give you a chart that tells you these are the abilities you get, this is your proficiency bonus at your given level. Really handy. It's also even handier for the ones that are spellcasters because it tells you potentially how many spell slots they have, how many spells they know of certain levels, how many times they can cast a spell of a certain level, depending on the type of caster that they are. So now that we have this in place, the last thing that I want to do here is fill out the attacks and the armor class. Oop. So I need to find the, here we are, shopping section. Not really. Kind of. Wow. So chainmail armor grants you an armor class of 16 right off the bat. Yeah, you have to have a strength of at least 13. No, you have to have a strength of at least 16. So we're there. I'm going to write a note here. Disadvantage on stealth checks when wearing armor. However, it's a base armor class of 16. I was right originally. It was 13. It's a base armor class of 16 plus our shield of +2 plus our defensive fighting style 19. We are really, really, really tough to hit as this fighter. So let's hop over now to weapons. With weapons, we have two different types of weapons. We have long sword. Our attack bonus for a long sword, since it is not a finesse weapon, a long sword is going to be strength based, so +3, we're proficient with it, +5 to hit, and then it is 1d8 plus our strength bonus of 3, and it is slashing damage. I'm just going to do that way. We're actually going to write it down again. Let's see. I'll just do longsword 2. So this one is still +5 to hit, but it's 1d10 plus 3 slashing. That's for if you're going to use it with two hands. If you're not going to use your shield, it's better. You can swing harder. And then finally, hand axe. Hand axe has a couple of different things with it. Let me find it on my list here. Hand axe is again strength base +5, 1d6. Let me double check. Yeah, 1d6 plus 3 slashing, and just below here I'm going to write throw-in range of 20 to 60 feet. And voila. we now have our character. What is this character? How is somebody going to play this character compared to, say, a character that they've not compared to anything. So how is somebody going to play this character? We have our backstory. They're a soldier who is a member of the infantry. Were they in a war? Were they just in the army during a time of peace? Why are they no longer in the army? Are they too old? Or is this like an old fighter who has seen a lot of battles and can't continue anymore? These are kind of questions for the players to answer at the table. In a game like a game for a convention, it doesn't matter quite as much because you're only going to play that character once and you're only going to play him for a short period of time. Alright, so with that, let me save this. Okay. I don't like this. App commands. Haha. Save as. I'm gonna go up to my desktop, new folder, D&D horror, or suspense. Yeah, thriller game characters, Catacon 2016. And I'm going to name this Fighter Soldier. And save. Saving. Alright, and there we have our first character. I will be back again probably tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow, running another character for Catacon. I'm going to try and stream as many of these as I can because I'm running 2 different games. I think it's 3 to 5 players in each game. I want at least 8 characters, preferably 10 for each game, just so that players have enough options to pick from. I might not give them all 10 to choose from, but I might be like, alright, here's 3. Pick one you want, give me back the rest. And then just continue to hand them out that way, so that players have a few options, but it isn't too many. Alright, and hopefully I didn't just drop a bunch of frames. Yeah, I did just drop a bunch of frames. I stopped the recording on one end, so my apologies for that. Let's actually flip over to YouTube right now, or Twitter. Can't find my mouse. So Twitter, notifications, live dashboard. Hey, we had somebody watching us. Thank you to whoever it was who was watching us, and we will be back tomorrow, probably about the same time. Fare thee well. Oh man, this is going to go infinite, isn't it? Kinda hope it is. Anyways, thank you for watching so much.